Ladies and gentlemen, welcome and welcome and welcome and welcome to the number 12, if this is official. I had to just change it. It still said number 11. Number 12, as far as the list of many OCD Q&As. There's more than that out there in the web, but as far as like ones that I was able to start numbering, this is number 12, and this is going to be a Q&A. I'm going to roll up my sleeves. I am going to roll up my sleeves tonight and address many different questions and covering many different areas. And here's my rules tonight, okay? My rule for tonight and many of our lives is I want to have fun. That's it. That's the rule, okay? So we got to have fun. If we're not having fun, then we're going to get super serious. We're going to be obsessive. We're going to be compulsively spinning out in our spin outs. And I want to have some fun. And because that is an issue for OCDers, that you lose fun, don't you? You lose that laughter. You lose that joy. When was the last time you laughed? And that may be something that you need a little bit. So even if you chuckle, sometimes when I'm working with somebody with OCD, I'll throw out a little joke just to loosen them up a little bit. And sometimes I get that dead stare, or I get get a little bit of that going on. I understand what those dark moments feel like, and but we got to laugh through the goofiness too. So a couple things to let you know about in the chat, wherever it is on your phone or your tablet or your computer. There is a survey in the live stream there. It will be there. I'll leave it, I think, until the end if it'll let me. And what I would like to ask is, when it comes to a typical day, when's the best time for you to jump into a live stream? Now, don't worry about, I gave 3 options. It's morning, afternoons, and evenings. Don't fuss. I'm like, do you mean late night, early evening? Do you mean lunchtime, afternoon? Do you mean I just kind of want to get a general sense. So again, go into the live chat that's available for those that are here. I see there's a bunch there already. Evenings is in the lead. Evenings is in the strong lead. So I'm assuming that, and you might say, well, is this weekends or is it weekdays? Just in general. If you took the average of weekdays and weekends, put them together, which would find would be the one that you'd lean to? And there's a bunch of reasons for this. One is I want to figure out times that are going to be the most fruitful to jump in with the tribe, and also because Sunday nights for my schedule, from now on to going through Thanksgiving and then going into December, this will be one of, if not probably the last Sunday night live I'm going to do until the new year. Oh no, I just said Sunday night live. It doesn't mean I stopped doing lives. So I'm going to pick some other times to jump in and do some lives. This week is a very short week, and then my family and I are going to be away. We're going to take a break, and I'll be back towards the end of the following week. What's that, the 2nd of December or something like that? And we'll kick things back up. And then there's a couple weeks in December, and then as we traditionally do, we take a break at the end of December, week leading up to Christmas, and then even through New Year, and that becomes time of family, slowing down, taking a break, and then we recalibrate for the new year. What is the new year going to look like? What do we want to invest our time? So my wife and I have a lot of discussions on that, but we also have a lot of time with just as family, and having some good getaways and things like that too. So with that in mind, as I'm working through my schedule for December, I want to see, okay, if I did a couple of lives, where would be the best time? And then I also want to look at, as I look to the new year, I want to do some more live Q&As. I also want to do some live broadcast teachings that I'm going to do, where you can jump in live, and I'm going to teach and you can join. And I want to get to that too, because many of my broadcast before, I did a lot of live teachings and stuff like that. So check that out. What else is there? Oh, the book. The book is gonna come out. I got a book. I'll announce the title of the book, and I'm hoping in December, when I get back from the Thanksgiving break and all that, I'm hoping in December to do a book cover launch. And what I mean by that is I get the tribe involved in helping me pick my book cover. And so stay tuned for that. That's always fun. I really enjoy that. So I'm hoping to do that in December. And my goal is early 2023, the release of my book on OCD. And this one is a doozy. This is my most invested writing. It goes very personal to my history, my story, but it's really going to focus in on the heart journey and what are many of the things that you all have heard me teach on. And then from there, I got some great dreams and thoughts about supporting people who want to not only go through the book, but I'm going to be developing video content for it that and support for people. So that's going to be fun. So as of right now, as far as Sunday night, lives, as far as OCD Q&As, it'll be a little bit before I get back to an OCD Q&A, unless unless inspiration of another way to format it. But anyways, y'all get that? So for Sunday nights, won't be doing any more Sunday nights simply because of scheduling. Month of December, every Sunday night, I've got something going on that I need to be at that'll take me away from being able to do this. So, and good stuff too, So I'm trying to think. Anything else? Is everybody doing all right in the comment section? Evenings is still in the lead. Evenings, y'all a bunch of late night owls, aren't you? People call me and they're like, not call me. They write to me and say, I'll say, how'd you find out about me? And they'll say, I was scrolling through YouTube at 2 a.m. and I was spinning out. I found you. And I'm like, maybe one of these days I could tap into my single years, because my single years, I could stay up pretty late. I've adjusted that a lot now. I like tonight when I get done, it won't be too long, and then I start winding down. I'm ready for bed. Kids, let's get to bed. Shut it down. And maybe I need to tap into some of my single years and do some really late night, midnight OCD lives, and people will trail in, laying in their beds with their phone sideways, searching something, and they found this guy. I think he's talking about it. So, anywho, hope you're all doing well. Welcome from New Jersey, and I don't even know how to pronounce that. See you, or is that just a spell? Oh, okay. That's just Kudahi. Kind of sounds like Gaddafi. Kudahi, Wisconsin. Oh, wait, hold on. I'm searching here. There's a Kudahi, California. So we might be confusion. Well, welcome, whichever you're from. Anybody going to bed in Europe? I think no. You're already in bed, or it's late there, right? Yeah. So what's up, Wisconsin? We got some Wisconsin people going on here. All right. Glad you're happy to catch a live. I'm glad that you're here to catch a live too. I found your YouTube with a 5 a.m. scrupulosity. See, that's it. That's it. I'm sorry that our meeting has to be in a crisis, but it's nice to meet you. And oh man, my goodness. Thanksgiving for myself is very lonely. Ask for your prayers. Thank you very much. It is for a lot of people. It's for a lot of people, not only lonely if they don't have people to be with, but it's difficult for a lot of people working through family issues. And you can feel lonely while around people. And Thanksgiving isn't always an easy experience. Hello from Connecticut. I'm in England. Okay, you're, the one who said I'm in England, what time is it where you're at? Just to kind of calibrate me, because I don't, I'm Finland too. Tell me what time it is. 7 p.m. in Barbados. Oh man, that's amazing. I bet the weather's nice. Although it is probably chilly there with all the cold front that's going through. So he found me spinning out. Found everybody meets me spinning, you know. That's Canada, where it's probably like 20 degrees. I got a pronunciation. Cut to hay. It sounds like we're talking like another language. This is Wisconsin, right? Cudahy. I'm from Cudahy. I'd be like, excuse me, sorry. I'm from Cudahy. What? One more time. One more time. North Carolina. What's up? Chilliwack, Canada. You know, if y'all could just Chilliwack, Canada kind of thing here, everybody chill. Miami. Oh, suffering in Miami. Minnesota. Half of my family is from Minnesota. A lot of Norwegians there, Scandinavians. Good to see y'all. Anyways, I'm going to get into some of these topics. You hear that? There's a lot. There's a lot here. If your question doesn't get addressed, it is for a couple reasons. I know last time I said sometimes they don't get read because they're too long. So now everybody's hyperventilating and they're writing, going, "Sorry if it's too long. Sorry if it's too long." It's just too long. So sometimes it's more long, lengthy, and so many issues that it gets into, and I feel like it probably needs. Maybe it's a little bit more than I could address in a Q&A. Another reason is it's a question that will take a lot of unwinding in stuff I've already addressed many times. The most common question that I get is usually salvation OCD. As far as obsessive compulsive, salvation OCD is the biggest one. It's at the top of the list. And it makes sense because obsessive compulsive issues go for the big things and the big subjects, you know, being a murderer, being a sexual deviant, unpardonable sin. Like it shoots for the stratosphere in the subjects. And so eternal, you know, what your eternal destination is one of the most common ones. And then from there, it trickles into intrusive thoughts, like blasphemous thoughts, sexual thoughts, doubting thoughts, a lot of doubting thoughts, because OCD is the doubting disease, highlights doubts, and everybody has doubts, but it highlights doubts. So if you don't hear your question, either just didn't get to it, or I tried to do my best to go. I skimmed through them quickly and just check to make sure people aren't cussing people out or something like that. So, anyways, give me a second here because the first one's an audio question. Where do I have that? And I got. Let me open my Bible just in case I need it. In case I need to utilize my theological standpoints. You guys like it when I get theological. I'm going to be doing some more. How do I get rid of that? I don't know. Okay, so here we go. Our first question, here's an audio question. So let me go ahead and play that.
Hello, Mr. DeJesus.
Mr. DeJesus.
I am a young adult, and I've struggled with assurance problems for many years, pretty much my whole teenage life and into my early 20s. And basically, I've just been... I really appreciate a lot of the stuff that you've made. It's been really helpful to me. I first found your video because I had never realized before that people could actually have like OCD about religion, about assurance, and I had come across it in another article that, hey, people have this problem, and I was just doing some research to see if I could get some help, and I found your video about 5 things that people with OCD need to experience, and it was like about God's love and loving yourself, and I think it was mercy and grace. And it was really, really helpful for me. Very helpful. And I was able to realize that I had a lot of distorted patterns and things from so many of your videos, and I really appreciate it. And I also really benefited from your video that you made about, I think it was called Obsessing Over Your Salvation. And the part that really stuck with me was about moving on as though you are a loved child of God. And I started asking myself, what does that look like? What would I do if I was a loved child of God? And I just started living that way. I started sharing hopefully helpful experiences with other Christians who I know, and even unbelievers, because I thought, oh, I don't have to be all together and perfect to be able to minister to people. I can help people right where I'm at. I don't need to be all perfectly healed and have perfect assurance before I can do that. And honestly, I was doing a lot better with that, but after I started getting better and finding freedom and learning new ways of thinking, I got really hung up on kind of like exposure therapy for OCD. Basically when you like just say that you don't care about your thoughts, that you just ignore them. And
So she's going to get into exposure therapy and the confusion with religious OCD, because that's a very common place of confusion. You know, when you think about you have an obsessive compulsive about cleanliness, it's understandable that you have to allow yourself to see things not being perfect and accept them, and you accept that they're that I'm okay. You may see relationship OCD where you practice, where you're being exposed to getting closer in relationship, but you don't feed the compulsion to break away, run away, or whatever. And there's a whole list. There's like confession. You don't follow the compulsion of confessing, right? But you feel the anxiety of it. So a lot of OCDers have a hard time with the understanding of exposure when it comes to subjects like salvation, because the black and white thinking doesn't give any option for nuance. So a lot of times we think, well, I have this intrusive thought about, let's say, a sexual thought, and I talk about the gentle redirect, but there's also a sense of not being afraid of the thought, because that's what exposure is teaching you, not to be afraid of the thought. So a lot of times in black and white, an OCD goes, so what are you saying, that we should just be okay with dirty thoughts all the time, right? So we're always doing this swinging. It's this all or nothing, black and white. It's always operating out of extremes. So what's in the middle? Is in the middle balance? Some people would say that they call that balance. The middle is relationship journey. You're learning how to, because those extreme places create such a pressure within you, right? So, and in both situations, you're afraid of the subject. So what we want to do is we want to break the I talk about exposure as something that you can do in a clinical setting. I'm not a psychologist or psychiatrist or clinician, but I understand the concept and process of exposure therapy, and I've had some feedback in my own journey on that. And then there's what I call just exposure therapy of life, which to me, that's where I've had the most breakthrough is when I'm working through something. Yes, I can sit in a session with somebody and do that, but I can also practice in my daily life, learning not to be afraid of thoughts, learning not to be afraid of things that once disturbed me. So there's various ways that we can approach to one, not be afraid of the thought, two, to stop chasing the doubt of it, because OCD is a doubting disease, and fear and doubt work together. And what if, but what if, but what if, but what if? I need to get a turntable, like a record turntable. What if? Boom, boom, what if? Boom, but what if? Boom, but what if? Right? And I get a whole song going. We just start freestyling. But that's what it does. Is it just does the but what if? But what if? Doubt, fear. What if is the fear language, but is doubt. So it's constantly doing that. over and over again. So in exposure, what you're doing is you're facing the fear, and you're also diminishing the urgency of this doubt that's screaming at you. That like, okay, I'm not playing this game anymore. So, anyways, let me allow the question to keep going.
I think the one that really caught me up was about if God sends you to hell, and just like looking at that thought and going, oh, fine, whatever. Like, I guess I'll just worship God from hell. Like,
so there's some confusion that some OCDers have to that statement that I said. I don't remember when I said it. I think I've used it a bunch of times, where I said I was spinning about that I was really just living a lie, and I wasn't really saved, and I was going to hell, and I was in this constant spinning out about it. And so I try to dodge and try to do all the things that compulsives do. Repent, check this, do that, do jumping jacks, push-ups, do spiritual calisthenics. So I actually stumbled into this by accident. I was just fed up, where I said, I was speaking like I was speaking to the devil, okay? Because I felt like there's just a lot of OCD has a lot of accusation to it, right? A lot of just being accused, being hit. And it was this like hell kind of thing. And so I'm driving my car and I go, fine. Then if I'm going to hell, I will worship God in eternity from hell. What that statement did was, number one, I stood up now. Like, I'm sick of this. I'm drawing a line in the sand. So I faced the fear rather than, oh my God, because that's what OCD wants to do. It wants to make us back down in fear. And I'm like, doggone it, I'm sick of this. And sometimes you have to get to that place with OCD to break through. You're just like, I'm sick of this lie. I'm sick of this torment. I'm sick of what it's producing. Two, I faced the ridiculousness of it. That was a way for me to show the ridiculousness of this spinning, because obsessors go right into a very narrow subject that sounds right, but it's distorted and they're chasing it. And God doesn't work where he gives you a doubt and then pulls you on a string, right? And I tell all religious obsessors, if your obsession is true, then a prayer or one step or whatever it is would solve it over moving on. But it doesn't, right? In fact, you go hundreds and hundreds of times ruminating, inspecting, checking, do all these things. So we have to examine the fruit of it. So this thought is telling me I'm going to hell, but nothing I'm doing is helping to bring about peace. It's realizing I'm fighting with a troll here. Do you know what a troll is? You know, online troll? Sometimes trolls show up in my comment feeds, right? What do you do with a troll? You do with a troll. The best way to deal with a troll. Now, I'll tell you what we first do with a troll. What do we do first? We argue back, right? We argue back and we defend and we go back and we argue with the person. And then you realize it just gets worse, right? It's like the troll feeds on accusation and feeds, that's got your attention now. Now it grows. That's what obsession does. It sees that you're responding to it, so it grows and it's arguments. And then it comes over here and it comes over here and it comes over here. The best way to deal with a troll is you face it by well, let me back up for a second. The best way to deal with a troll is to ignore it, right? But there's also at times another way that you can defeat a troll is by just embracing what they're saying. And this is where it gets tricky for OCDers, because the question here from my sister is saying, I'm agreeing that I'm going to hell. No. And this is where the black and white of OCD gets tricky, because we equate saying something, thinking something, as full agreement. And that's why obsessions become a struggle. You had a thought, so you think, I have full agreement with this. No. No, what you actually have is agreement with perfectionism that tells you, I cannot have this thought and I must fix it right now. And I must. That's why the problem is not the problem. It's the seven distortions at work that you think it's the thought, right? So I'll give you another example. Years ago, when I was diving into mental health work and those subjects and talking about anxiety, at the time I was on Facebook. I'm not on Facebook right now. Do you think I should be on Facebook? Would you like me to be on Facebook? And I was doing just spreading the word about what I was doing, stuff like that. Somebody wrote to me. It might have been a troll, like a bot. Who knows? Because these things in the algorithm, they know how to track you down. But the person said to me, "You have no business talking about mental health. You don't have professional training and masters or whatever, something like that, right?" And when I saw it, it hit me. It was like, that was hurtful. I didn't know the person, and a typical response would be, "Well, yeah, but I could argue back," or whatever. So I just wrote back to the person. I said, "Yeah, you're absolutely right." And I said, but I added a sentence, "But I will never stop talking about mental health." So I actually just agreed with the accusation. So, there's this concept in the Bible where and this might get a little complicated for people. There's this concept in the Bible, agree with your adversary quickly, right? You've seen that scripture where there's like a conflict, agree with them. Does that mean, think about this. When you agree with your adversary, it means a person who's got something against you and they're accusing you, right? When he says agree with your adversary quickly, does that mean you're going to walk away and you two are fully in agreement on everything? No. You're trying to find agreement over the issue so you can move on. And so I found that there are many areas of our life and our thinking where we're arguing back. Obsession is creating a distorted picture. So for me, going, fine, if I go to hell, I'll worship God in hell. It faced the fear. It showed the ridiculousness of it. Were actually out loud, and actually it allowed me to move on, because I was like, this is ridiculous. Why am I chasing this? Right? And so embracing the accusation doesn't mean agreement. Many of you have thoughts of, you did this sin when you were 17 years old and you did this. Like, okay. Right? Oh, I'm agreeing with my sins and I'm saying yes to it and I want to keep it. Right? We go on all these issues. No, I'm not. There's a difference between going, yeah. Okay. You ever have this time where you're arguing with somebody and they go, you don't listen to me. You don't listen to me. You don't listen to me. Right? And you go, okay, fine. I don't listen to you. Can we move forward? I was like, wait a second. They're lying about you and saying that you don't listen to them when actually you do. But what you're doing is you're just shutting the whole thing down by going, fine. That diminishes the power of the thought and it leaves it in a different place. So if you find, I don't know, that's confusing. I feel like I'm agreeing with sin and saying yes to that. I think that's where she goes in this. Then work it out how it helps, But I find there's something very biblical that a lot of Christians don't realize they're doing that is working against them. And that is they argue back with the devil, so to speak. Whether you believe it's actually the devil or it's your thoughts or whatever, I'm not going to get into that right now. But when you argue with the devil back, he is operating from a court of law. He's the accuser of the brethren, operating in a court of law. If you argue back, you're done, because he's going to find another one. He's going to find another one. He's got a book. He's got a stack of accusations against me like this. Yours are bigger. You got more. I'm just kidding. Where's your stack, right? Of accusations, right? That he can hit you on your past, your mistakes, what's not good enough, what's not right. And what we often do out of just instinct is we argue back. And what I found in my journey is like, I got to treat him like a troll, because I'm not living in a court of law. I'm living in a realm where the blood of Jesus has covered and has set a new standard of righteousness in my life It's his work. And I'm growing in that. And I don't grow in accusation. I'm never going to grow. I'll argue back. I'll try harder. I'll do more works. And I'll go, okay, I'm a good Christian now because I did these good things in it, right? It's like learning how to, when you feel like you're just constantly being accused, leaning into it in a way of letting go of control, letting go of, I got to fix all these things. Because the eternal salvation thing, when you're staring at it, and you're trying to fix it, argue back, what do you notice? It gets worse. And so you've got to like learn how to let it be so that it no longer has an influence, which that takes time because you've created deep-rooted thoughts and reactions to this. I'm spending a lot more time on this than I planned to, but that's okay.
It scares me because I'm like not sure I can do that, and then I start to emotions. Then I start to just worry that there's something wrong with me because I can't just say that. Like maybe I'm not really a Christian because
you're equating, if I say that, then I mean I'm going to hell. And that's not what I'm doing. I'm treating the thought like a troll that's screaming at me, you're going to hell, you're going to hell. And I'm going, you know what? Sometimes just embracing it and giving a witty answer back. You ever see like people, like even on Twitter or places like that, where they just give like they don't let the accusation bother them and they respond back with a funny joke, right? It ends it right there. Like the troll just loses his power because you just go, I remember the time when I was standing in front of church and I'd just gotten done and I heard some ladies talking. There was a new lady in church, and I've told this story before. She was very loud, and you could tell she was that kind of person. And somebody said to her, hey, just so you know, our pastor does session work with people. And she looks over at me and I kind of catch her looking over. I'm standing with somebody else. And she goes, I'm not getting help from that guy. And I just turned and looked at her as she said it. And normal human response, this is how we deal with OCD too. So see the parallel. Normal human response would be like, that's disrespectful. I'm a man of God. I'm a pastor here. You're going to. So this is what I did. I said, you know what? I don't know that I would get help from me either. Now, did I agree with her that I shouldn't do sessions with people? No. But my response dropped the whole thing. And it made me not take myself so seriously. Are y'all getting this? Are y'all getting what I'm saying here? Right? Somebody said the devil's a defeated foe. Until we realize this, we live our lives to be run by him. Right. It's like when the narrative starts with him. The therapist taught me to stare at the floor, not the accuser. And it works. Disengagement from the enemy is empowering. Correct. I find my OCD is a catch-22. Like chemical imbalance, someone obsessed causes chemical. Yes. Yeah. I'm trying to see if there's any. Agreement, not agreement. Boom. Let's give her applause. I think YouTube and Rumble are good. No need to be on Facebook. Mwah! So, bless your heart. You're better off staying off social media. I respect you for it too. Oh, thank you very much. Okay, so anyways, focus, Mark De Jesus, focus. Let me get back here.
I can't just say that super easily. And anyway, I'm not exactly sure what the next thing is that I should do.
Part of because she's getting heavy here. You feel the tears, right? And I'm just turning the whole thing on its head by going, yep, okay, so you're telling me I'm going to hell. Well, this is what I'm going to do in hell. It makes no sense, right? A worshiper in hell worshiping God. Right. Because my desire is to be in relationship with God, and so is yours. But you're stuck in a very serious rut over this. And I understand.
I guess I just I'm wondering, how do you just say that? How do you just do?
You don't have to say the way I said it. That's not a rule. Like I did that, and so you got I'm not going to teach a worshiping in hell class. It's not. It's just an example.
Do that? How do you just tell the thought, fine, whatever, I'll worship God from hell? Like, is it like earning something from God by agreeing to follow him no matter what? Is it like a trick that you give to your thoughts, knowing that you'll never really have to test it out? Is it like proof that you're a Christian or something? Anyway, I just thought I'd ask. I tried to send a written question a while ago, but I wasn't really sure it went through because my browser was being so glitchy. So anyway, thank you. I just thought I'd ask. And I also want to say that I really do appreciate a lot of what you're doing. And it has been very helpful, but I was kind of hoping I could get some more input on this question.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, with OCD, there's kind of, as far as application, there's working on the heart. There's the gentle redirect from the thought. I don't have to think about that. That takes a lot of practice. Then there's the exposure level too. It's like a heightened level where the anxiety is rushing in, and you're starving the compulsion. You're not acting on it, and the anxiety keeps reaching, and you're facing it. You're facing what it's saying. That for me was facing what it was saying and letting go. And there's a lot of letting go of control, letting go of spinning out over arguing over it. And when it comes to our spirituality, don't argue with the accuser. It's a loss. What do we redirect ourselves to? My standard is not how good I am. It's what Jesus did for me. Oh, okay. Now it shows what I really need. I need to learn how to receive that in a sense of ongoing growth and learning what it means to receive grace. Okay. Anyways, that's, I rambled a bit on that, which is all right, because my goal is to have fun, but I do have a lot of questions here. So, this one's in, I think, God's will and some other stuff here. I think this one. Yeah. Thank you, as always, for doing all that you do. You have been a tremendous help to myself and many others. I have written to you before, but I recently had a new obsession rise up in my thought life. I have a friend who is really unsatisfied with their current career, and they have mentioned a few times how they believe it's because God has called them into full-time ministry, but they chose this career. Okay, I see this already coming up. When it comes to OCD, and really Christians in general could really use a lot of discipleship in this area. Number 3, distorted meaning of thoughts. Interpretation. So right here, I've already got some distorted interpretation starting. This is a very black and white. I'm in this job, but I'm supposed to be in full-time ministry. And so now it's creating this dilemma. But they chose their career as a first responder, which is, depending on where it is, but that's tough work, That's very, very tough work. That makes it harder to do any form of ministry. I push back. Being a first responder isn't ministry. We have to be very careful about what we describe as ministry. And I understand when people say full-time ministry, what they really mean is someone who's in like an official position or spends their working hours in the day or is a part of an organization or something. That's often what we mean when we say full-time ministry. But you and I are all full-time ministries. It's our lives. We're learning, growing, and we're sharing with who God brings down our path. A lot of people just don't think they have that it's a ministry because, well, they reach 4 or 5 people, so that doesn't make headlines. So therefore, they don't have a ministry. We all have a ministry, and it's in different ways. And I would say, wow, as a first responder, well, it depends on you're a paramedic. Who else is in first responder? Police, firemen. You're right in the moment of people in need. I mean, I've had moments where interacting with, the fire department, or whatever. I was like, thank you so much, so grateful. Like, what an open opportunity to be a blessing, incredible blessing. So I push back on this, that's not ministry. So this triggered you. This triggered you that you're outside of, let me go back to your writing. This triggered me because the idea that being outside of God's perfect will leaves a person unsatisfied with their life. And so OCDers take God's perfect will and it's like, I'm in it, I'm out. I'm in it, I'm out. I'm in it, I'm out. They treat it like that. And that is not God's intent for us to be obsessive compulsive over his will, because now you're trying to follow him out of disturbance. You're trying to follow him out of making mistakes. Everyone in the Bible made massive mistakes. Massive. Show me your favorite people in the Bible. I'll show you major mess ups, and God used them. So we've taken this will, we've taken God's will, and we've made it into direction. We haven't understood God's will is really more about renewing how we think to see things the way that he sees them. That's why the Bible says in Romans 12, be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove the will of God. Your mind gets renewed. And so you actually, by your life, show God's will because you're thinking thoughts that are based on his ways. You're learning his ways relationally. I don't spend any moment going, am I in God's will? I used to, not anymore. I got rid of that. That's a very, very tormenting thing. And that was one of the things that helped me with that. Speaking of exposure, I had a very hard time listening to accusatory thoughts and about where I was with God and where I was, and that was another exposure thing that I did. I said, God, you know how to get a hold of me. You know how to talk to me, but I ain't listening to this. And so if there's something here you're trying to tell me, you know how to get a hold of me, but I'm not listening to this accusation and condemnation. And then I realized this whole spaghetti of thoughts was just all toxic garbage, but it sounded right, or it sounded like something. So, God's will is a big one. And then, the worst book of the Bible for OCDers is the book of Jonah. And they attribute their dilemma with Jonah. I'm in, was it Tarshish? I have a hard time saying this. Tarshish? Supposed to go to Nineveh, right? And this wasn't like Jonah sitting there going, I think I had a thought. Like, no, the word of the Lord came to him. Okay. This wasn't like he sat and he just, had a thought. People are like, oh, maybe I'm Jonah. Okay. These guys had a actual a beck and call to them. And so they think, and even this is the funny thing that we don't see in Jonah. Jonah goes, God says go left, he goes right, and God still uses him. And Jonah goes and does what God tells him, but begrudgingly, and people repent and turn, a whole nation turns. This cracks me up. The guy with a bad attitude, still use him. Then he's done and he's in self-pity. And God still comes to him, and then Jonah cuts off, and we don't, it's like the weirdest ending. Like, what happened next? But anyways, obsessed with God's will. It's big time ground for OCD. I had major relationship OCD when first engaged to my now husband. There were no major issues with our relationship when we first met in college. I had no Christian background and we weren't yet Christians, but a year into our relationship, we both committed to God, turned our lifestyles of sin around completely by God's grace, and jumped straight into being a worker at our church and devoting much of our time to serving. Our church was very unhealthy, and I believe today it was actually a cult. There was a lot of spiritual abuse and manipulation. Yeah, so that right there is a factor in where you're probably going. You probably need to do some reflection on what was abusive about it, because people with OCD, if they're under an abusive ministry, it really increases obsessions and compulsions. I've seen it. I've experienced it. So I have a strong desire to be in ministry at a point in my early walk with God. What you mean is you mean some official capacity. You're in ministry. It's your life. Your life's your ministry. So I even when I was a pastor, I was really trying to help the people in the church understand Like I knew many of their jobs and what they did for work. Like, for example, there was a lady who worked in a law office, and she did the, I don't know what you call it, the legal, there's a term for the position. It's all right. And I remember saying to her, like, you're working in that law office. You have relationship. That's a place where you can make a difference, right? Now, don't go around preaching to everybody. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. But you're there. I can't make that difference. I have to somehow meet them in a certain way, or maybe they come to this church service. You're there every day. And so a lot of us need to realize wherever you are, look around. There's your ministry. Now, please don't hear me and start preaching at everybody. You know, if you were to die tonight, don't do what was done to you. To love people. And when the opportunity arises, be a blessing, right? So I don't believe that, you know, and I understand what you're saying, that you want to take it up a notch into a more, you know, where more of your time is invested in strategic kind of things. Anyway, okay, I strong believe to be in ministry, my early walk with God. This was about 4 years ago, but that all changed when I like to point out when the but all that changed when I believe God told me to leave my then fiance. So because you wrote God told me, that does not mean I have to agree that God told you. Just so you all know. Okay? Now that's a classic card we can put out that then know, whoa, because it's this ominous God told me. Ooh, all right. Okay. I don't have to go with that, because it seems to me we could be heading into some distorted interpretations. God told me to leave my then fiance as a sort of test to prove I actually loved God more and was willing to lay down any plans I had for my life to let him give me what he had for my life. Very, very common compulsion of OCDers. God, I don't think I love you enough. I'll give it all up. I'll give it all up. So you think about something you like. I love him. I must mean I got to give him up. Right? It happens to everything. You could be like, you know, I love him. I love pizza. God's telling me I got to get rid of pizza, so I love him more. Or, you know, it's a very, very common OCD thing. I had major symptoms such as obsessions about if I loved him enough or if he loved me, hour-long Google searches daily, fears of seeing anyone else who was attractive as they might be the one. Yeah, so you had relationship OCD. And I'm wondering if you still have these things rising up. Fears of him cheating, me cheating, weight loss, the list goes on. And I'm sure you know them all. This obsession caused me to completely fear God, and I couldn't read the Bible for close to a year because everything in it triggered me. So you see where obsessive compulsion takes us? So we got to like reverse engineer this thing. Go right back to the beginning. God told me to leave my then fiance, right? And I've seen this happen, people. God told me to leave my spouse. Lady I know, did I read about? No, there was a situation where a lady left her family, got on a train and just left. She said God was telling her to go into ministry, commit an affair. Somebody was twisting scriptures to commit an affair, saying that God told me all this stuff. You know, it can go in all kinds, because we're feeding this feeling that's hitting us. That's the backstory for why today that phrase my friend shared triggers me. My husband is currently in part-time ministry. So what's part-time? You know, I'm being funny. I know what you mean. He has a desire to be full-time at a point. I go on trips with him when he gets invited occasionally, and when I'm there, due to my distortions of God, I feel miserable because I don't feel like I can connect to God the way I see everyone else connect to him. And I just fear that I feel so down, anxious when around ministry, when my husband is with my husband is because I'm truly living outside of God's will by being married to him. So yeah, if you take that distortion, believe it as truth, as fact, it'd make you miserable. And as you can see, there's no way around it, so you feel trapped. My caution to you is get back to the beginning of this, that this is OCD, and you have a distorted interpretation of God's will. It's time to just get back to the simplicity of God loving you, and get back to what it means to love your husband, and to work through those obsessions. that, because here's the conclusion you're leaning into. I feel so down, anxious around ministry with my husband is because I truly am living outside of God's will by being married to him. Keep feeding that thought. It's going to want to go into a lot of compulsions that are going to be harmful for your journey. I just want these to stop. They're not going to stop because you're listening to them. I say that as lovingly as I can. Obsessive thoughts don't stop. They only stop when we create new patterns, we stop compulsing, and we learn to move in new directions. They keep talking because we stimulate them by listening and by acting on them, so they keep going and going and going. I want these to stop so I can get back to enjoying my walk with God and believing that God is good for me to be in this marriage. By the way, I'm also 5 months pregnant, so that adds to some of the stress as well. So what we've reviewed so far, there's a distortion about God's will. You have relationship OCD and some religious OCD. You have a spiritually abusive church. That's a major, major thing to work through. That's where I would go back and do some learning. What are some things I learned in that environment and upbringing in my faith that contributed to these mindsets that I feed on a regular basis? And it is not God's will just for you to just leave. I mean, if there's other factors, get counsel on that and so forth. I don't want to make blanket statements for people in their marriages. Okay. And so you have this spiritual abuse. I don't know what your upbringing was like, and you're pregnant. So that's a major transition now. So now hormones are shifting and changing your physiology. You're recognizing a new life now is developing within you. So you have to give yourself grace to recognize what this is. But this is all OCD. And I wanted my brothers and sisters to hear that, because many times we attach to something and say, this is God speaking. OCDers have to let go of that ominous stamp that we put on there. God said it. I actually don't like Christians talking like that. That's my personal opinion. I try to keep that calm and not shove it on everybody else. But I'm not into this. God told me, the Lord said this, the Lord said this. Most of the time we're just trying to figure it out. And I think a healthier way is, I think this is what God might be saying to me. I feel like God may be saying this to me. I don't like this black and white stamp that we put on stuff. It's not healthy. It's not healthy because we all see through a glass dimly. So, and Paul said that. And Paul, I don't know, sounded like he heard pretty amazing from God. And he even said on his best day, the lens is foggy. So that gives me comfort to go, I'm just trying to figure this out. And trying to God, is it? And I'm not saying don't pray about situations, don't think about situations, but we do a lot of overthinking of the weather. And should I? And we just don't take a step. So it keeps somebody stuck in, I'm not saved, I'm not saved, I'm not saved. So then they can't move forward in their faith. Or somebody's stuck in, I've got this sin, I'm out of God's will. So it just keeps you stuck and you can't move forward. So that's why it's like, we got to move forward. Anywho, next one. I got to move a little faster if I'm good. Everybody doing okay? Where are we at? Evenings is not as big in the lead anymore. 67%. Afternoons. Oh, we've got some afternoon people. Little afternoon coffee and tea. Mornings is still losing. I had a feeling morning was not going to be the winner. Not a lot of morning people here. Okay, so this is a quick one. I remember Derek Prince once saying that when we confess our sins, we should call them the worst names we can possibly think of to avoid rationalizing. I hadn't heard of that, so I'm not sure why that would be beneficial. Do you think this might destabilize someone with OCD battles? I don't see that as being necessary. Would you consider establishing a support group for people who overdosed on Derek Prince sermons too early in their walk? If I did, then I would probably have 9,742 groups. because there would be people who'd overdose on this teaching, on that teaching, on this. Derek Prince was very, very helpful. Even in my library, I got a few of his books. He's got one like a Christian handbook. I thought it was pretty good. He does a lot on spiritual warfare. I appreciate his work. He was trying to help people understand spiritual warfare. I feel like it got too much with blessings and cursings, and I lived in that kind of mindset for a while. That blessings and cursings, break door points, and stuff like that. But what I saw in my journey is it invited law and it increased perfectionism. It increased OCD tremendously. And in the new covenant, God doesn't work with this strict blessings and cursings kind of thing that we operate in. And I know it gets complicated and stuff like that, but we like, oh, you do this, God will bless you. You don't do this, he'll curse you. So it leaves people into this performance-driven thing where we're in a new covenant now. Now, there is stuff that runs in our generations and things like that. Certainly, spiritual warfare battles, it needs to be put into context. And I find blessings and cursings teaching gets out of context. And it gets people in legalistic trying to make their righteousness better. It needs balance in a grounded perspective. So that's just my quick thought on that. Thought interpreters kind of stuff I think this one gets into. I thank God for your ministry and insights and also for your responsiveness as I've reached out with questions in the past and you've gone above and beyond to answer them in each case. My question today is as follows. Are the thought interpreter and the past event interpreter the same guy? Thought interpreter, past event interpreter, the same guy. Well, is it a guy? Is it a girl? I don't I know we're talking about the interpreter. Yeah, it's the same thing. When you think about the past, interpret the past, you interpret your thoughts. Yes. Interpretation, how we interpret what we've been through, where we are, where we're going, what we're currently thinking. That's all interpreter. And for OCDers, we got to fire the interpreter in all areas because it's distorting the lens. I ask because I ruminate incessantly over a particular period of my life in my early 20s. Yeah. Many of us do. You know, we have bad decisions or we have regrets and stuff like that. I think it's a healthy process as you get older. Stuff happens in your past and it comes up and it disturbs you. You're like, oh, I wish I could just erase or fix that. And that's actually another form of exposure, by the way. You have these memories of something in the past that happened, you made a bad decision or didn't make the best decision, and you learn to be loving to yourself as the thought arises through, and you learn to respond more loving each time. And at first it feels like you're just being drowned, but over time you learn to practice a loving response. And then it helps you to put your past into perspective and see God's redemptive heart about your journey instead of being stuck under accusation all the time. I was making very bad decisions during this period, was in no way sinless, ensnared in patterns of immorality that God had delivered me from in his grace. But cue the ominous music. I love it. I love it. It says in the question, cue the ominous music. Yes. I love this. You made my day. This is great. The accusations that come at me about this period of my life are nonetheless very extreme and tormenting. I hope, out of proportion with reality. I have a lot of thoughts like, I am no better than the most heinous type of criminal in God's eyes. I'm a dangerous person. Yeah, you're pushing things off a cliff in your interpretation. If I really loved God, that's a very common OCD thing. If you really believed, if you really trust, if you really, you know, the OCD Bible, you know how Jesus said, verily, verily, the OCD Bible would say, really, really, if you really, really, or the OCD Bible would say that you know, that you know, that you know. I have a lot of thoughts like I'm no better than most. Okay. I would just admit my guilt and stop trying to downplay the severity of my actions. You see, the more I try to defend and rationalize against the accusations, which I know I'm not supposed to engage with the thoughts, but I give in easily, the more the tormentor says, you're just in denial of how disturbed you really are, but God knows your true colors and you can't hide from him because what's done in the dark will be brought to light. Yep, so you get twisted scriptures that come and accuse you. Shame is here. And that's a big part of accusation, shame. I tried to do a 12-step, but I kept spinning out in torment over questions like, what are you currently in denial about? Which is a common problem with obsessors doing 12 steps is you have to just keep that in mind. The principles are awesome, very, very helpful in recovery. So much good stuff there. But the fearless confession gets distorted for OCDers. I've confessed the details of this time period to a dear friend, a counselor, and my mother, and all three, all who are all Christians, have assured me, wow, you got quite a crew here. They repeatedly told me that while they understand where my shame is coming from, the lies about being dangerous and the equivalent of a heinous criminal are indeed lies. I'm free to move on in my life and my job. This well explains how OCDers struggle with the past. Still, it is difficult to believe them and to believe that God doesn't regard me as a monster. I've been caught in this rumination cycle in some form or another for several years now. I think even in writing this, I've actually answered my own question. I have a good idea about what you're going to say, but I pose the question anyways. Are the thought interpreter and passive interpreter the same guy? Yeah, it's the same criminal. It's the same criminal. And all those of you that are struggling with your past, something in the past, we want to run from our past. We want to hide from our past. Sometimes I meet people who knew me when I was younger and just immature and goofy. And something rises up in me where I want to go, I'm different now. I'm different now. I want you to know. It's like a shame of old Mark. So I've had to learn, this is going to sound strange maybe to some people. I've had to learn how to practice loving old Mark. When those thoughts arise of my history or goofy things I said, goofy things I did, decisions that weren't the best, I used to fight him and make him go away. I do that. And then I was just like, okay, so that happened, but I practiced being more loving in that. And so that's helped me tremendously. So then I appreciate my journey. I appreciate moments. I said stupid stuff, did stupid things. And at first it just would paralyze me. And I just learned when those things rise up, embrace them with love, embrace them with grace. Because then you see it for what it is, not worse than it is. And OCDers are always seeing stuff worse than it is and over catastrophizing it. And so what was it? Did you have an affair? Did you make a bad decision? Did you make a bad choice? Okay, that happened. That happened. This is why we got to get sober about our life. Not in one area is denial, the other area is, drowning in it. We drown in it. I'm so terrible. I'm so bad. No. Well, that means you want me to deny it? No. This happened, right? So what we're doing is we're being more gracious about it. This is what happened. Here's what it is, and we're learning to then be able to move forward with a healthier lens from our past. So moving on. Okay, this one, you've said before that the gospel is for those who know they need it. We're all poor in spirit, but realizing this is key to receiving Jesus. How can I get myself to the point where I know I need him? Yeah, you're checking. You're checking. You have the I got to know that I know that I know. So it's like, do you know you need him? Yeah, I know I need. Wait, do I? That's the hesitancy that gets lost. Where I struggle to know in a deep sense, the kind of know where it has it in quotes and even brackets around it. Like no, it's got to. I gotta really know. Really know. Did I know? I gotta know. I don't think I know. In some ways, I'm upset that God made people knowing they will be lost forever. How can I believe he loves me? So now you're going to get on lost tangents. And it can take you into outer space in your thoughts. How can I believe he loves me if his wrath also abides in me? Okay, so his wrath abides in you. So you're getting off track. You already know the gospel is for you. You're writing me this question. You want to know, and you're lost in. Do you know that you know that you know that you know? So you're gonna have to start. You're gonna have to start moving forward because you're getting lost in tangents now that are going to be unproductive. Does he love the people in hell? So now you'll create more scenarios than that. Is God going to still love them when they're in the lake of fire? Is it still, all these things that you could keep going. I know my thinking is wrong somewhere or everywhere. I know that if I truly understood, there's that, truly understood his love, there's no way I would reject it or struggle with such existential questions. But I'm struggling. I'm wrought with anxiety over hell and his wrath. Yeah, you need 1 John 4:18. There's no fear in love. Perfect love casts out fear because fear involves torment. It involves punishment. And the assurance we need is in his love. So I'm wrought with anxiety over his wrath. I'm treasuring up wrath in myself against the day of judgment. Romans 2:5. Yeah, that's you're twisting that. I talked about Romans 2 and the Romans 1 and the spiral in culture that's going on. Yeah, a lot of OCDers take scriptures given to the world and they apply it to themselves. And they're like, yeah, maybe that means I'm not. How can I make myself see how much I need God and his forgiveness? How do I realize the depth of my sin in a way that justifies hell for the unrepentant in my mind? Can I truly say God loves you to an unbeliever or to myself in such a condition? Yeah, you're pushing yourself down a slope. You're interpreting yourself harshly. You're coming in. You're letting the swirl of that doom, damnation is for you. That's your destiny. So then it just keeps feeding more slip and slide. I pray every night asking for his help. His help is here. His help is here. Your brother from another mother is here. Stop repeating the prayers. Stop repeating your salvation prayers and start moving forward. And you could just start turning things. And thank you, God, that you love me. And I'm ready to learn what love is. And focus your attention on what is love. I pray every night asking for his help, asking me to allow me to see the truth, to soften my heart, to not lean on my own understanding. These are all the language of the OCD. To experience his love so I can love him back. Yeah, his love is here. So be more loving to yourself. You're not being loving to yourself. You're sending yourself to hell every day in your thoughts. And if you notice, it's not producing fruit. It's just creating more torment. So 1 John 4:18. It's about love. It's about you being loving towards yourself. That's an acknowledgement of God's love for you, is be loving to yourself in this journey. Thank you. Let's see. I have been going through all your responses, and the thing that truly sticks out to me is the statement you always say, the problem is not the problem. Boom. That's important. This helps me get out of many thinking spirals and nonstop spinning. Then I get a, yeah, but... always hits me when I'm making progress with life. I feel like I can disregard intrusive thoughts and realize they're not the problem. I always get slammed with this thought of, you have OCD. It's on an official medical record. Even if you're healed, the medical record will also say that. It will also be there. This causes me to spiral really, really hard. Also, the fact that I got 2 diagnoses. In 2019, they told me it was OCD. In 2021, they told me it was anxiety with intrusive thoughts and no compulsions. So this is another example of exposure. Yep, it's on my record. It's on my record. So it's like what the fear is telling you. You expose yourself to what the fear is telling you. In this example, it's like, yep, it's on my record. And it's okay. And it's okay. And you hear it, I know it means it. No, it doesn't mean anything about you because you have a diagnosis. So that's all right. I got a ministry. I help people, and somewhere in somebody's paperwork is a diagnosis of stuff. So, yes, embrace it. That's, so you understand the problem's not the problem. Your problem is perfectionism in the sense of there's no allowance for the fact that you're on a journey and you have things you're going through. So no allowance for weakness and struggle. So Pastor Mark, I sometimes think this might not be the problem because it's like I'm obsessed with the diagnosis or an obsessive compulsive anxious or whether or not I have anxiety. Yeah, it's fine. Embrace it, because there's a shame that can work of people knowing we have it, or even just, having it against ourselves, an accusation against ourselves. So, all right. This one is, okay, I'm an aspiring artist and currently keeping 4 sketchbooks so far. That's awesome. I've discovered my ability to draw my very own anthro characters. What's an anthro character? I'm showing I'm getting old. What's that? Oh, like anthropomorphic, I'm not like super smart, but I do anthropomorphism. I do remember that word. Isn't that where you attribute human characteristics to other things, or like animals or stuff like that? Am I right? Somebody be like, Mark, that is not exactly correct. Okay. So sorry, I got on a tangent there. Okay. So you like to draw these characters. Now I'm in a terrible position where it causes me to destroy my creative spirit. By the way, a lot of people who write to me, they have OCD. They're writers, they're musicians, they're drawers. They have some form of art, and they get accused in their journey. This is worldly. I love this more than I love God. And they're very sensitive. So, but they're very sensitive to accusation and guilt, and so it steals the joy. I don't know where you're going with this, so I got to read here. But now I'm a terrible person where it causes me to destroy my creative spirit. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm in a terrible position. Sorry. Where it just caused, not terrible person, a terrible position where it causes me to destroy my creative spirit and my desire to enjoy life altogether. A little bit about me. My mom is a believer, and she thinks that yelling at me and using corporal punishment from when I was a child would help me grow and make me a better person. Unfortunately, it doesn't. As I grew into my teens, I developed some anger and rage issues, and still do to this day. I found myself having creative moments in my life personally. Right now, I've been in a terrible position where I'm constantly hating myself and wanting to destroy my creative spirit in me. So you have a lot of self versus self stuff that, and certainly mother issues bring about a lot of anger issues for sure. But I want to know, where's your dad? Where's your dad in this? Did your dad encourage your gift? Did he encourage your creativity? Did he walk alongside of that passion? I guess I'm starting to realize that legalism has a profound effect on me. My mom is very strict about performance, like putting the dishes away and making sure the kitchen is clean. Yeah, I mean, it all depends the spirit behind it. I mean, putting the dishes away and make sure the kitchen is clean. I mean, we have to tell our kids that a lot. So it's all the pressure that gets put. All of this put a lot of pressure on me, and I grew mentally and emotionally worse. I got laid off from my previous job because I was not able to meet up to the company's standards. So I'd have to understand that. If a company's letting you go, because what does that mean? You're not showing up on time, or not putting the effort or work in. She even insulted and shamed my drawing talent even when she was a Christian. You have no idea how much pain that was. I guess I have to say the reason why I'm so emotionally unbalanced and hopeless is because of my mom. And yes, I might be a bit black and white thinker, concerned about living the right way. Right now, my desire to create, enjoy life, and my interests and hobbies have all been stolen by such pressure from my family and my legalistic tendencies. And now I'm contemplating committing suicide nearly every day. So while the direction is faced to your mom, and of course anyone who's using words of ending their life or things like that, you need to get proper help. And so that's important for me to say that. But I know that what you're really battling with is you against you. So while we're talking about your mom, and that's a part of it, I also want to know about your dad. Where was he in this picture? And also there's this war going on with you that really needs to be addressed. So let's start by let's take mom and let's start moving in a process of forgiving her. I kind of get the impression you're still living with her. So that may be something too. We need to get out on your own. We've got a lot of our young people in their 20s still living with their parents. Now, everybody has their situation. And there's a lot of stuff culturally that's going on contributing to that too, with the economy and everything. But I'm a big believer that we need to leave father and mother so we can figure out now our journey. But we need to start the process of moving towards forgiving her. Okay, she's legalistic. That's how she is. Okay, don't try to change her, do any of that. But right now, what you can solve is taking a deep breath. Okay, right where you are right now, checking this out. Maybe you're in, whether you're here live or watching this later, taking a deep breath and start practicing kindness to yourself, because you're in a war within yourself. Stupid, I'm going to destroy this stupid stuff and the things, all, like I can feel all that animosity within you. So we're just going to calm that, right? It's okay. And you need to start turning towards yourself in love, because right now you're turning to yourself in hate. Turn to yourself in love so that you can start seeing the next step that you need to take in your journey. And practice your drawing. Keep practicing it, because you've created passions there, and we want to tune into that. Okay? So I just pray for you in the name of Jesus Christ that you would just right now embrace the spirit of the Father's love over your heart right now. That you're loved. You've gone through some stuff. You're going to walk through it. You're going to figure it out. But what you need is a dad's voice. Because that's what I sense in the middle. You need a dad's voice. My kids are 12. My daughter's 12. My son's 14. Every day there's something I'm doing to either listen to them, share with them, help them, spend time with them. And sometimes I think about how many of us grew up without ever having that. A father's attention, his presence, his tender voice, his instruction, his reminder, his assurance. That's what we're living under the plague of fatherlessness. And all these issues we're manifesting is a need for a dad. And then God calls himself dad, and we're trying to talk to him. We don't even know we don't even know where to start, because all our references have been shattered. All right. So my prayers for you today. All right. There's a lot of deep stuff here. Where's the survey at? Okay. We're at 70% evenings. Here 70, afternoon 20, and the morning at 10%. Okay. All right. No morning people. The morning people are getting ready for bed. I'm a little bit lost in the chat. So if you want a question, a quick question, send it into the super chats. That helps me to see it. Okay. I started having blasphemous. Did I change the slide? Because that helps us to find it and tag it later. That's why I do that. I started having blasphemous thoughts 4 years ago, and they never stopped. I feel powerless. I fully believe God has condemned me for my decision to sin against the knowledge of his truth. All right, so we already got heavy here. We got to back this up. Because this is heavy weight. I was warned that if I committed sexual immorality by porn again, he would leave me. No. So here, this is in general, we understand mental health. Mental health, so much of it has a breakdown in love relationship with God, with ourselves, with others, right? And so because of that, lies get inroads, and our interpreter gets thrown off. So what happens is, we're going to go through the rest of this, but already from the start, we're basing the discussion on a lie. So I fully believe God has condemned me for my decision to sin against the knowledge of God. I was warned. So here's the God told me that if I committed sexual immorality by porn again, he would leave me. No, God, you think God's patience run out? It just got started. His love is so incredible. His patience and his grace is available for you right now. But what happens in our mental health journey is, in our brokenness, lies get in, and then now we build on those things. It's like talking to somebody. It's like me going outside of the studio here, going find somebody on the street, and I walk up to them and I go, "Why did you slap me?" And the person would be like, "I don't even know who you are. Why do you slap me? Tell me why you slapped me." And I'm yelling at them. They're like, "I didn't slap you," right? I'm starting a journey of conversation based on something that's not true. Right? And then I'm going around telling people, "This person slapped me in the face. Tell me about why this." And I'm creating this whole, and that's what our thought patterns do. So I got to go down to the root system. I go, wait, hold, time out. Whoa. Nope. God doesn't leave you because you looked at porn again. You're mad at yourself about it, about the battle. And we need to let love and grace happen so we can get why you struggle with porn. We're never going to get to the root of why you struggle with porn on shame. So we're going to see, okay, here's the battle. Why do you have this excessive, empty place of needing love that then drives you to need this to feel peace or to feel relief or to feel comfort? That's where the work is. So this is going to lead you down distracting paths. And I haven't even gotten to it yet. So anyways, and I hardened myself in that moment and did so willfully. Nope. That you don't harden your heart with like, I hardened. You might be stubborn, or you might be like, having thoughts of maybe being stubborn. Another OCD trip up is, I have a hard heart. No, you don't. How do you know, Mark? Because you're talking to me and you're open to conversation. I've seen hard hearts. Okay. Ever since then, my life has been absolutely horrible. Right. It would be if you think God left you and you have a hard heart, you're hopeless. So we're just going to unwind that. God hasn't left you. He's here. He's here. He's here right now. Remember that song? Come on, all you Assembly of God people. He's here right now. You don't need to wait. And you don't need to beg, for he's passing out gifts for all to receive. And he's here right now. I must have sang that song like 1,000 times. To meet every need. So I'll praise. You had to take a deep breath before that one, because you'd go, praise his name. So I'll praise his name. And so I'll praise. Bringing back memories now, okay? Getting distracted. I cried to God and begged him to forgive me. You don't have to beg him. I just sang that. We don't need to wait and we don't need to beg. It's prophetic. You don't need to beg God. You don't need to get on, like all these tangents of intensity. You're loved. You're in deep shame and self-hate right now. One day in the bathroom at work, I cried out on the floor and begged him for a second chance, pouring out. Okay, so you're asking for a second chance, but he didn't leave. He didn't leave. So it's going to create a lot of frustration for you. Your heart's crying out for his love, but you need to turn to yourself in love, because you become an enemy to yourself, and it's keeping you in a spin out. Healing for your broken heart's available, brother. I begged him for a second chance, pouring myself out to him, and saw behind my eyes cursive words that spelled, I forgive you. In that moment, I felt a huge weight off my chest and body and felt absolutely joyful and set free. Since then, though, which was over a year ago, I've still struggled with blasphemous thoughts, sexually intrusive thoughts, and even sexual thoughts that cause my body to actually physically get aroused. Yeah, that's what makes sexually intrusive thoughts tricky for many, because something happened physically in their body that means something. I also talk to God all the time, asking him if he really forgave me, and I hear a voice say no. Right? That's OCD is going to do that. It's going to tell you the worst case scenario response. You know, if you go, am I a sexual deviant? Oh, I heard yes. Oh no. You know, did I commit the unpardonable sin? I heard a yes. So we can't base our journey off of that kind of interaction. I also talk to God all the time to see if he really forgave me. I hear a voice say no. Yeah, don't do that anymore. His love is here. His grace, his forgiveness is here. The Bible says it. And when sin abounds, grace abounds more. So we don't need to ask questions that the Word of God already establishes. It tells me I can't forgive you. That's now we're getting way out of biblical context. Or when I ask lamenting tears and feel absolutely trapped beyond freeing. Other moments I get small glimmers of what I could call peace, but it's short-lived when I start thinking about why I can't have peace. Yeah, so go back and live in peace. And you'll have it for 5 minutes and it'll leave, and you have it for 5 minutes, then you'll have it for 10 minutes. It's all right. That's learning. It's learning how to practice peace. I read the Bible and find so many passages about the eternal sin being unforgivable. I don't know. There's so many passages about it. There are passages. I don't know. There's so many about the sin that leads to death, and not to pray about it or for God's judgment and wrath. May believe. Tell me about the verses you read about that talk about his love and his goodness towards you. Notice how with OCD, we have a highlight reel of all the ones we haven't figured out yet that are interpreted dark. It's like I can read 100 scriptures about God's love and God's relating to me. But if I find one thing that tells me something horrifying, I immediately find it natural and easy to agree with that verse as it's relating to me. So that shows what I was saying. I read the Bible from what seems to be a disqualifying lens because I truly believe I'm condemned. Yes, you truly believe you're unlovable. That's the problem. The problem's not the problem. You have an unworthiness that feels you're disqualified from being loved. And so it points to whatever sin battles you're currently dealing with. It feels like I'm so condemned that I'm looking for more proof to prove my fears to be true. It does not help a man cannot genuinely repent because of his insincerity. I'm sorry. It does not help with the voices I hear claiming to be God's voice. Yeah, it's not. This stuff is not God's voice. I hear about John Calvin and how he says the eternal sin is a sin which a man cannot genuinely repent of because of his insincerity. That was the sentence. I read it wrong. Okay. If John Calvin said that, he said that. Okay. I don't even know what that means. The eternal sin is a sin which a man cannot genuinely repent of because of his insin. Oh, that's basically a lot of fluffy words to saying someone who rejects God. They're, never says yes to God. That's what the unpardonable sin is. It's the willful, never ever accepting. But every person who writes to me thinking they have it has accepted Christ. Meaning he cannot repent because of the consequences of his actions. So his repentance is only based on not wanting to suffer the consequences. He knows what he deserves. Okay, we're getting really distorted here. And that makes me realize I'm a man that he's speaking of. No, it's all distorted here, brother. But I can't make you think differently or make you believe differently. You're going to have to realize this stuff's distorted. Also, all throughout the day, I see signs all over the place that remind me I'm condemned. Yeah, whatever becomes the focus. It happens all the time. People I meet with, and you think it's this scripture, and that scripture has a certain address to it, whatever it is, 423. So then you go outside and you see 423. You look at your watch, it's 423. You look at the date, it's April 23rd. Oh no, 423, right? You become very superstitious, and you start looking for that thing. So all throughout the day, I see signs all over the place reminding me I'm condemned. I see 1026 on the clock. I just 1026 on the clock and the number 26 all the time. And I just took someone's new card at work, and the expiration date in the card was 1026. This number terrifies me because it was Hebrews 10:26. And they told me there's no sacrifice for willful sin, which is what I committed. No. No. It's all no. All the interpreter. What you need is a journey on understanding the love and the grace of God, and start acting that way towards yourself. Yeah, I'm kind of skipping through a little bit. Me, on the other hand, the only reason I'm broken today is no, really. Okay. The only reason I'm broken today is not because of porn, but what porn has cost me, which is my eternity. Yeah. So that you think your performance and how well you're handling today, God is like, he's here, he's gone. He's here, he's gone based on your performance. I'm terrified, out of hope, cast down, crushed, truly defeated. Do you know anyone or anything that can give me any hope? Yeah. Well, hope is based on the love God has for us. It's not based on how good you're doing today. You got to get back to the fundamentals. You got to get back to love. Got to get back to what it means to receive love and actively live in that. Otherwise, the scriptures and everything else is tormenting. Without God's love, it's tormenting. So, okay. All right. Moving on from John Calvin. And now let's talk about being offended. How about any of you get offended? Are you obsessive with being offended? Are you obsessively getting offended with people, or getting offended with offended? And I think this goes into forgiveness OCD too. Okay. Here we go. Mark, help. It's all caps, exclamation marks. Through your resources, I recently discovered I have ROCD. I'm assuming you mean religious OCD, because sometimes ROCD means relationship OCD too. So I don't know. I get confused, but I'm assuming that. For years, I have fought so hard to stop assuming the worst and getting easily offended. Well, first I want to say stop trying so hard, because that's the perfectionist in you rising up. So we don't grow in Christ by trying so hard. We just one step in front of the other. But anyways, you're trying hard to stop assuming the worst and getting easily offended. I fought solely from a spiritual angle, but without success. Only deeper shame and despair. I've cried and begged God to help me change. My brain feels like a radar and high alert. You're probably pretty sensitive, and many OCDers are. I'm always scanning for potential threats. So that's your checking. You're being compulsive about offenses before it happens. You're checking for them. Radar. Is anybody going to hurt me? Anybody going to say anything? Right? Like, you're hyper vigilant. Have you been hurt in the past? Maybe, in some areas where, it's created extra sensitivity towards you being hurt and being wounded. That's part of it. But yeah, the compulsion for checking is in a misguided attempt to protect me. I hate and avoid conflict. At the slightest hint of possible offense, my stress response kicks in and I spin out. So your assignment is going to learn to practice being wherever settings you are that this happens, and you're going to practice your own version of exposure therapy. You're not going to try so hard. You're just going to graciously walk into whatever situation is where you're talking to somebody or you're online or wherever this happens. And you're going to practice when things offend you, letting it pass on through and not take yourself so seriously. Okay? I'll get to more of that in just a second. But I wanted to get to get your that's your quick response back. My stress response kicks in and I spin out, anxiously analyzing to determine if the offense is real or perceived. Well, we can throw that out because it doesn't matter if it's real or perceived. So if we come to the conclusion it's real, then now that's a real offense. And most people, when they get offended, it's feels real to them. So let's get rid of the real or perceived. It's triggering something in you. It's creating a disturbance within you. And I totally relate to this. I can feel in a moment talking to somebody where I get lost in something they said that I'm like, I got hurt by it. I wrote a whole chapter, a big part of the chapter on this in the book. And I would spin out, and I'm now evaluating why they say that, what they do, what they mean by it, and then I at times I would compulsively feel like I had to confront it. And you know what I learned? I learned the beauty of Proverbs. Let's see for a second. Let me get rid of this. If I get rid of this, where are we at here? Proverbs 19:11. Yeah. Proverbs 19:11 says this: the discretion of a man makes him slow to anger. It's a good word right there. And his glory is to overlook a transgression. The first response to being offended is not necessarily forgiveness. Some of you are going to go, oh, wait, what's Mark talking about? Nope, that's level 2. Level 1 is just not being as easily offended and just learning to let stuff go, learning to overlook. But with OCD, it's like, what do you mean overlook? What do you mean overlook? This is an issue. This is an issue. This needs to be addressed. This has got to be, we have to learn to not take ourselves so seriously. So I had to learn actually to take myself less seriously and lighten up. That's a very deep prescription I have for this area. We have to learn to lighten up. That's helped me tremendously because we take ourselves way too seriously. So there's glory in just being able to go, I can let it go. And what I would do is I would go, I'm not going to feed it. I'm going to redirect myself back. And if I'm still bugged out about this 2 days from now, then maybe I'll think about what I need to do. And I find most of them would just die out. It'd take a while, but they would just die out. This has to be developed in practice. At the slightest hint of possible offense, sorry. Okay, so there's 2 questions in here. Number 1, what does it look like for a person with OCD to stop getting constantly offended? Well, you don't stop anything by going, stop necessarily. You know, when it comes to intrusive, these are intrusive thoughts that rise up. So take the pressure off first. Okay, you're too hard on yourself. And it's more being gentle when you have that response in you. Okay, I'm getting worked up about what they said. It's all right. I'm letting it work through me. I'm on the roller coaster right now. The roller coaster is going to end. I'll be okay. You practice self-nurturing. I feel compelled to forgive anything that triggers me. Yeah, that's compulsive. And we can be very compulsive about forgiveness. I got to forgive. Because if I don't forgive, God's not going to forgive me. Right. And it's like, the thought hasn't even gotten to that kind of level yet. Just let it go, move on, redirect. So I feel compelled to forgive anything that triggers me just to be on the safe side in case the offense was real, right? Let's get rid of the offense, real or perceived. We feel what we feel, and you're working through your feelings now. Feeling hurt or bitter also equals a need to forgive in my mind, that you're being black and white. So it doesn't give the room for gray of, hey, that thing said something and it made me mad. Take a gentle response with you and yourself. It will cause you to be gentler with others. That's a good word right there. That's a good word. And I say that because it's helped me. Because I can get very easily taking myself way too seriously. And people's comments or things, and it bugs me. And now what I practice, and it makes me so much more gracious. So if you feel like, Mark, I appreciate your graciousness and how you are, that's coming out of me practicing that towards myself. And it helps put things into perspective. So I think it's not a forgiveness issue. It's you actually being kinder to yourself. Yeah, yes, forgiveness is important. But in this situation, it's more about letting stuff go, overlooked stuff. And like, you know what? I'm not going to get hung up on everything that happens. And I'm going to practice being gentle when that rush of emotion hits me. After overanalyzing the situation and trying to remember all the details, that's compulsive activity. I pray forgiveness statements, that's compulsive, until I really mean them. Cue the bugged out eyes. I don't have a bugged out eyes button. I finally get relief. Okay, so what happened is you follow these compulsions, you get relief. So it tells your brain, you have to do this now. That's the danger of compulsions, is they convince us the obsession is true and we got to keep following it. So we're going to break that pattern and you're going to take a different response now. But immediately bitter and horrible thoughts about the offender pop up, right? Because obsession went, oh, we got her. We're going to keep doing this. So I frantically pray for the person and compulsion, and suppress the thoughts as best I can, compulsion, lest they undo my forgiveness, compulsion. And that's me saying compulsion. I also actively seek to bless them, compulsion, both to extend grace to them and to further prove to myself that I truly forgave. Compulsion, compulsion, compulsion. It's all compulsive. So we're going to end all that, and you're just going to practice letting it go. Letting it go. Letting it go. Take a deep breath and let it pass on through. Proverbs 19:11 is your verse. Second question. If I starve the compulsion, what happens to the forgiveness compulsion? Do I stop forgiving anything? No, that's black and white. That's black and white. You're trying to apply forgiveness to something in a moment where you haven't even figured out what's happened. You're just emotionally triggered by it. So you let it go. If in a week later, you're still harboring it, let it go again. Months later, you're still, and you're just, and now it's kind of owning stuff. And every time you think of the person, you may need to go, I'm going to forgive them. I may have some unforgiveness in my life. But for you, it's more about interpretation here. You're going too fast. You're going too hard into a compulsion pattern. I asked only one person this question, but he said, since my OCD can't differentiate between real and perceived hurts, I don't know. Real and perceived hurts. Whether something happened or it's our perception, you feel it, right? So we always have to challenge our filter, even people without OCD. I talk about the rejection mindset where it messes with our filter, right? And that's why we have to learn when we talk to people about conflict is, hey, and I know I may not be seeing this right, but this is kind of how I felt. That's a healthier way versus what you did was, and they're like, I didn't see that. This is how it made me feel. I'm not saying what I'm saying is right. It's just what I'm feeling. But we're not at that yet. So your friend told you the best is to forgive everything, but I've been doing that for years and obviously it hasn't helped. Okay, so we're going to reboot. It's overlooking it. You have to learn to overlook at it. So Pastor Mark's spiritual word for you, don't take yourself so seriously. You got too much pressure. And you're going to have to practice hearing stuff that makes you feel these goofy emotions and you're going to learn to practice letting them go. And you're starving all those compulsions to forgive, to bless, to do this, whatever you're doing. We're going to starve that. Okay. Do that for 3 months and then write me an email and update me on that. All right. 3 months, just being kind to yourself. And you're talking to that person, you're looking at them and they say something. And you're like, what do they mean by that? Right? And you feel that distorted, let it just, it's working. Emotions, they rise, they're like waves and they'll go. And learn to redirect yourself back to the conversation and learn to practice having, good interactions where you can share even with your friends. I work, sometimes I get my feelings hurt. I get too sensitive about stuff, I'll admit that. My wife's told me, Mark, you take yourself too seriously, man. And I look, I got to chill out. So I would rather lean towards overlooking, lean towards not grabbing things. Well, what if it's something that I need to confront? I'd rather lean towards grace. It's always, and then over time, if it needs to be dealt with differently, then I'll see that over time. Well, we got to starve your compulsive behavior. Break free from being offended. Oh, so you did say my new tactic for now is forgiving the obvious, shrugging off the triggers that probably don't matter, and redirecting my mind. So the second part there, shrugging off the triggers, shrugging off the triggers, shrugging off the triggers. That's it. That's it. I should have just read the bottom of the question and started off. All right, moving on. I'm gonna really zoom now. Hey, Mark, I've written before, so I'll try to keep it concise. I've struggled 14 to 15 years with salvation OCD. Got through it. Okay. We always have to be aware of this finality of like, okay, it's over and it's done. I don't have it anymore. Let's back it up a little bit. That's a lot of pressure. It's over. It's kind of like, okay, I'm doing better, and I rejoice. It's great. And, that way, if I see the struggle happen again, I'm not spinning about having the struggle. Didn't know it was OCD, always had doubts, needed to pray again, didn't do it right, be baptized again. This time it's taken over. Maybe I was supposed to trust it was all God's work and I made it about me. No. It's just OCD it's just kicking up. That's what it is. The depression, rumination got so bad, I told God I didn't want him anymore. If this was all because of religious OCD, I asked for forgiveness, but I feel like, how am I ever going to trust that I'm his now? I feel like it's more of a satanic attack. So you had some of the OCD that you felt like you got through. Now it's just a new level of working through it. That's why I said like I don't even talk about myself in the sense of like, I have OCD and I don't have it anymore. I'm just like, I'm on my journey. It's way better. I'm doing wonderful in so many areas, but I still have growing. You got to give room for growing. We're too black and white in how we assess how we're doing. There we go. Okay. Hi, I've been listening to you for over a year now, mostly through podcasts. You and your wife are a big blessing. I've had so many questions and comments for you, LOL, but I'll just start with this one. Have you heard of real event OCD? Yes. I don't understand why they call it real event versus fake event. I'm making a joke. I know, because OCD can kind of make up certain events or take real events and distort them. I kind of mix them all in together. I think it's a very common problem a lot of people have, where they look at the past and they struggle with it, struggle with the past, struggle with things that happened, and they create these really harsh interpreters. And so my recommendation is always, what does love say? Love doesn't deny things happened. Love creates the atmosphere by which our hearts can work through what happened. Get what I'm saying? So I've dealt with OCD more years than I know, but this one came to my attention by name. I've really struggled with. Just wanted your thoughts. I appreciate so much the help y'all give. It made a huge impact on my life and getting me through my mental struggles. May God continue to bless you both. Well, may God bless you too. And I pray that what I share can encourage you about putting the past into perspective. Okay. Where are we at here with the polls? 71% evenings. Everybody's in the evening. You guys are going to make me stay up all night, aren't you? Yeah, all right. I think I may. Yeah. Let's see. Comments. Y'all are chatting away. All right. This has to do, I think, with helping people with OCD. I have a friend with OCD and perfectionism struggles, as well as addiction. And you guessed it, the roots of it are shame and abandonment and absence of a father role in his life. I've been ministering to him, and I see him as the Lord sees him, a child of God and his beloved son, though he can't see it still. Yeah, so you can't make people see things. They got to see it. And we can't want it more than they want it. We can't convince them more than they want to hear and listen. It's hard to minister to someone like him. Oftentimes he rejected help and comfort due to the absence of love, him expressing suicidal tendencies, and it grieved me so much and brought about a holy discontent in me, seeing what happens if brokenness started to spread. I'm getting the sense you're wanting healing more than him. OCDers will stay stuck in their OCD when they are convinced that their obsessive world needs to be addressed in the way that they're sharing it. If they're not open to reinterpreting, getting to what the real problem is, it's very frustrating. So even in my one-on-one work, I'll let a little bit of that happen, where I'll chase the little tangents and go over them. But then we go, okay, are you ready to do the real work now? We got to get to what's really going on. And if they're not willing to do that, I'm not going to sit there and keep chasing the obsession. It's not helpful to them. It's not fruitful. So that's the important thing. They got to want it, and they got to want to learn, and they got to want to hear. And OCDers can be very, very stubborn, but not in the way that they think. Oh, I'm stubborn. That means I'm hard-hearted with God. No, they're actually stubborn in oftentimes in receiving what they really, really need. Unconditional love, nurture, grace, mercy is needed in their life. And they're like, no, it's because I committed the unpardonable sin. And that's where the stubbornness can happen, where they, and so you can't do that for them. He wanted to do the right things, and oftentimes he spiraled down due to the feeling of him never being enough in what he does. And not only once or twice, I prayed with tears to the Lord and humbling myself before him and asking, this is very common. We all get in this. You're becoming codependent with his battle, and you're carrying the burden for him, and that he's not carrying himself. So skip ahead. Now, we're not on speaking terms because he chose to walk away from me. It saddens me, really, but at the same time, I'm giving the Lord total control since I've come to know about his struggles. I don't have responsibility towards him in his struggles. Yeah, I don't know. That I do see in your writing that you took it on a bit too much. I see greatness with him and the potential of the Lord has him to be, and it angers me that the devil uses brokenness to numb one's heart to the truth and accept love. What do I have to do now? Yeah, you said you're giving the Lord total control, so you're gonna have to let him go. You can't force it. You can't force him to want it. Okay. I work for a parachurch organization that helps homeless men and women. During my interview process, I was asked by my now supervisor if I believed that God had called me to work at this particular organization. Although I responded yes, I didn't know if I was called to that organization or not, as I was also pursuing other employment opportunities. I feared that if I responded, I don't know, it would ruin my chances of possibly getting the job. I understand. Fast forward, I was hired by the organization, and now I can truly say that this is the best organization I've ever worked for, and I do feel like God has, in fact, called me to the work that I'm doing now for his glory. So that's great. But despite this, I cannot shake the nagging thought of confessing that I lied to the group that hired me. That's the interpretation, is that you lied. I struggle with guilt, confession, and perfectionism. After listening to your videos, I don't feel that my confessing at this point would improve upon an otherwise great relationship with my now coworkers, but it would only remove my guilt. Right. I've already confessed to God. Is this enough? I'm still plagued by the need to go and confess to the group who made the decision to hire me. Please help. I'm not even quite sure this is something you needed to confess to God. They believed you're called. You answered the best you could. They didn't ask you, were you there at 9:00 at night and you knew you were there and you said no. They asked you do I feel called? It's like, you answered yes. So my feedback to you is, if you need to work through this with a therapist or work through this with somebody, because they may not understand OCD. And you're like, well, I got this thing and I know I called, but I'm not called. And they're like, wait, are you saying you're not called? No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying with the call, but when I was called, when you said called and I was called and I'm not called and I don't really know called. And I go, well, it could just add confusion. So work it out with someone else if you need to like process it out some more. But yeah, that's the best thing I could say to that. Okay. I'm a subscriber from Austria. Welcome. And I really enjoy your content. Watching your videos helps me whenever I start spinning. I've had this particular problem for a while now. I'm losing faith, or that's what it feels like. You're not. I haven't even gotten to the rest of it, but I can already tell you, you're not. One day I was wondering if God really exists or if I'm making this all up in true OCD fashion. I started panicking and obsessively researching. Right. Yeah, stop researching. That's an obsession tangent. You're looking for a disturbance and chasing it. And then you're like, well, I'm losing my faith. Maybe I'm doubting. No, just rein it all back in. Be loving and kind to yourself and just keep walking forward, keep growing. I've learned more about the history of the Bible and the arguments for God since my obsession started than in all the years I've been a Christian, but nothing helps. Yeah, it's sometimes we get a momentary relief, and a lot of times it just gets worse. And the more you read and the more stuff you read out there, Jesus himself could appear in my bedroom and tell me he's real. My brain would find a way around it. Well, you know that. So you know that this OCD is going to keep distorting what reality looks like and what to think about. I'm deeply afraid of losing faith, but I also can't allow myself to be intellectually dishonest. There's the black and white. If I'm either holding my faith or I'm losing it. I'm either being totally honest or totally dishonest. It feels like I've already lost faith, and I keep asking God if he can forgive me if I do. So you're starting, OCD starts the question off on a distortion, on a lie. God, can you help me because I've lost my faith? And it's like, you didn't. I'm here. But God, you help me because I lost my faith. I did my best. I did my very, very best. I'll try one more here. We're still on evenings, 72%. You guys like the evenings. All right, this one's it's a little bit lengthy, but I think I'll try to read through it. It's about passive-aggressive behavior. At work, I am an assistant manager, and in that role, did I change the slide? Yeah, let me just do that just for our tagging. At work, I'm an assistant manager, and in that role, I'm often assigned the task of taking a new employee and training them. When I see an issue in their performance, I don't speak up in hopes that the problem will resolve itself as they watch me work. I would say at the jump, okay, if you're a boss, you're a manager, when you see an issue in their performance, maybe that's where the start is to find kind ways to bring up things in their performance. Good managers know how to kindly bring up, okay, hey, when you're doing that, do it like this. And then they also know, yeah, let that go. You don't have to bring that up. Right? It's like I talk about, it's like whether you're raising children and parenting or managing people or pastoring people, or whatever it is, it's like knowing what to give input to that's important and knowing what to go, that's all right. They're going to learn as they go. So I think that's probably the best feedback I can give up front, right at the jump. In the back of my mind, I'm always thinking that I'm so tuned in with everyone else's feelings around me that when I'm doing something wrong, I pick up and am able to correct my actions without the need for confrontation. So I expect the same from everyone else. Okay, that's a sign you're manifesting perfectionism. This is really intense. I do everything right, and I pick up on things. I pick up on cues. When the reality is, there's probably cues you don't pick up. But there's like an intense, I do. The problem at work gets out of hand, and I drop subtle hints to the employee to change their behaviors, and it usually ends in me finally becoming angry and confronting them in a non-professional way. So you have perfectionistic tendencies. So a manifestation of perfectionism is anger. So you don't say something, you procrastinate saying something, then the anger builds up in you, and then you just want to blow up. So the key is what I said at the top there, finding kind and fruitful ways to share feedback in the beginning. My supervisor sees this and is wanting to work and develop me in my management skills, which I'm grateful for. This past week, he asked me to confront someone with a question and use their answer to address the issue, and it worked really well. In the relationship I'm in, I've been struggling from the get-go with talking about my needs. I drop hints to what I want to manipulate him to do what I want. You don't want to just drop hints. Learn to be able to talk. This takes practice. of sharing your needs, what's important to you, and not using dropping hints as a major way. He's very aware of when someone isn't happy because he also has relationship OCD. So he's constantly looking for assurance that I'm happy. So you have some interesting interactions. Your OCD, his OCD. I brush any compliments I have off as me just being too needy and don't ever tell him my true feelings. So don't brush. Oh, I brush any complaints I have off as me being too needy. So you need to be connected with what your needs are. So you got to practice that. You got to practice actually acknowledging what your needs are and learning how to express them, because that's going to help you in your job too. Yeah. So without going into all of it, learning how to come across in a way, but it starts with how you're coming across with yourself, and being very hard on yourself, and learning to go, it's okay to recognize these needs, and I'm learning how to say them, not just from a place of irritation. And that's a perfectionist journey, is they have to learn how to be gentler and kinder in themselves, which helps you to see the playing field differently. And then also it's okay to share your needs, but not to share them out of a resentful place or just an angry place, because perfectionists are very angry with themselves. So that's my feedback there. All right, I'm going to wind this down. I'll take a look through here in the comments. Are there any last comments here? Last comments. Those of you that are jumping in late, this is going to be the last Sunday night 6 p.m. Eastern Q&A I'm going to do for a while. We got the holidays coming up, and I have a bunch of family things that I'm doing some time away. I'm going to be having between now and the end of the year. So that doesn't mean no more lives. I'm just going to be doing it I'll doing some at some different times here and there. And then we're going to be getting ready for the new year. This week, I may do a video this week before I take Thanksgiving break. So anyway, so please hit the poll here. We're at 73% evenings. Looks like that's where it's happening. I think you all are just talking to each other. Let me bring this over here. But yeah, to that last question that I finished, and that's I would say work on perfectionism stuff, because there's a lot there about how you see yourself, how you interact with yourself. I did have a bunch more, but wasn't able to get to them. It's all good. Thank you. I appreciate that. You said thank you so much for all that you do, Mark. I feel like upbringing can have an effect on one's ability to voice their needs. I feel like that's the case with me. Yep. It's the case with everyone who has struggles with needs. It gets formed in childhood. And many have been under abusive environments. Many have been under neglectful environments, just not equipped to go, it's okay, this is what I need to be able to speak it up, and this is important to me. That's a part of, it's even how we interact with God, of knowing how to bring our needs to him. Paul said he'll supply all my needs with prayer and supplication and thanksgiving. Let your requests be made known unto God. And a lot of times we don't even know what we're even bringing. So it's an important journey. Does anyone know that the Holy Spirit is in us? Is it a feeling? When you have OCD, it's not worth going down those tangents. It's just going to chase you into another question, another question, another question. Are you guys getting stuff out of this? Thank you. Appreciate that. Was this helpful for you all? I went on so many different tangents. still at 73%. Okay, I think I'm going to, if you haven't voted, vote on the poll there. It's cool. 131 votes. Thanks for doing that. I'm glad it was helpful. I took a journey, went on a lot of different places. I can tangent forever. So I'm glad to be a help to you. I'm glad to be a help to each of you. Keep me in your prayers as I pray for you. I'm getting ready. Going to be spending a lot of time getting the book ready and getting everything ready to launch that in the new year, and looking forward to that. So stay tuned. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube and click the notifications so you can be notified, because I may go, hey, I just want to do a live right now. Or I may do a ask me anything, kind of ask me whatever. Good. I'm glad to help on the salvation issues. Yeah, that's great. Oh, thanks. You guys are very, very kind. Thank you for your ministry. Such a comfort. Always helpful. Thanks, Mark. Thanks. Very helpful. Yeah, that's great. I mean, above all, we need deeper love. We need deeper grace. We need to know just how to connect to that in a meaningful way. And starving our compulsions is a major, major part of that. How would you advise tackling a phobia of throwing up and intrusive thoughts daily? But I haven't thrown up since I was 6 or 7. Therefore, part of me believes it's working. Well, that's good. That's good if you feel like you've made progress with that. There's a gentleman, he's a PhD therapist who, if you know what, write me an email, mark@markdejesus.com. There's a therapist I connected with in the area. He'd heard about my materials and very kind, and he does work specifically on phobias of fear of throwing up. And he actually wrote a little book about it for kids. So if that'd be helpful to you, I could find the link and send it to you. Just send me an email. Oh, thank yous and thank yous and thank yous. Yeah. Yeah, great stuff. Great stuff, everybody. Lots of love. Everybody have a good rest of the weekend. Have a happy Thanksgiving. If you're in the United States of America, well, even if you're not in the United States, you're in another country, it's still good to be thankful anyways. And this is your brother from another mother saying, Lord willing, and the creek don't rise. I'll be back with some more stuff. Even though the creek may look like it's rising, I will be back. I am your brother, and I look forward to more good stuff. So blessings to you all. Be sure to go to markdejesus.com. Become a supporter to help continue sharing these materials. And I look forward to seeing you in future episodes. Adios. Hugs. May the Lord bless you too.